Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the virtual college exploration for all North and South Carolina students. My name is Allison Brown with Furman University. I will be the facilitator for this event, which is sponsored by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, partnered with StriveScan. Thank you so much for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the full schedule at CACRAO, CACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the time on the same website, CACRAO.org. I'd now like to turn it over to our presenters.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the University of Maryland's information session. My name is Adrian Rodriguez, and I'm your admissions counselor from the University of Maryland. Typically, I would be down there visiting all your high schools, going to your college fairs, but as you know, with COVID-19, we have this virtual setting. So today, what we're going to do is really just kind of talk about the University of Maryland as a whole, then kind of talk specifically about the application process and the different components of our application as well. And of course, we'll be able to answer any questions you have. So throughout the presentation, feel free to use that Q&A feature because I do have two colleagues with me that will be answering your questions. They're also from the admissions team. And so we all read applications from all over the country. So I could read your application, but they also may be the ones to read it as well. So we're all very well versed in the different information or answers to the questions you're going to have. All right. So again, use that Q&A feature. At the end of the presentation, I also will have a specific time allowed for questions too. And so again, you can either use it throughout the presentation if you really want to know something based on a slide or information I've said, or you can wait till the end as well. To kick it off, we're actually going to start a quick video, especially for those students that haven't been to the University of Maryland before. This will kind of give you a good perspective. And for those students who have been, maybe this will give you a perspective of the new stuff that you'll see around campus as well. So just give me one moment so we can get that going here. And there we go. And we're going to click on here. All right, let's jump in here in the presentation. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, my name is Adrian Rodriguez and I'm your admissions counselor. For those of you who just joined us, I do have two colleagues of mine as well that will be on to be able to answer Q&A questions. So feel free to use that Q&A function as well. And with that, we'll start talking a little bit about the University of Maryland and some of our distinctions. So again, these are going to be a little bit of our facts and figures, some things you might want to know about the University of Maryland. So as you can tell, we are ranked number 19 among all public research institutions. We also are ranked one of the top schools as far as best value goes for our students. So as far as how much bang you're getting for your buck when it comes to an institution of higher learning, we rank up there pretty consistently with one of the best schools for that. If you're interested in entrepreneurship and kind of starting your own company, we also have been ranked as one of the top schools for that. So if you're interested in that, we have part of our business school, we do have an entrepreneur program. Outside of that, there are different startup opportunities too for students, and you don't have to necessarily be involved in that major to be a part of that as well. And as you can see, here's a couple other figures, 19 Division I NAA teams as well. And then number one school to go to right now for best LGBTQ students, according to Pride and Best Colleges, Campus Pride and Best Colleges. So our location, so we're not that far away from North Carolina. Many of the students I talked to have been to Washington, D.C. in their life as of now, either for a field trip or a family trip. I even have a lot of students when I typically go down there who said that they have family members who are from the area. So just so you're aware, we're about 10 miles from downtown Washington, D.C. We have access to the district via Metro. That's the big subway system in our area. We also have access via the bus system as well. So if you want to also go to further places, we have Amtrak available to get to places like Baltimore, our state capital of Annapolis, or even if you want to get back home to North Carolina, that's a pretty quick and easy way to get down there as well. From New York City, also, which pretty quick as well, we have direct trains that leave from here on the hour, every hour to New York City, so with stops along the way in Philadelphia and New Jersey. So if you're interested in visiting the Big Apple, we're super close for that as well. Lastly, we have 3 major airports in our area, so literally anywhere around the country, anywhere around the world that you want to go to, the University of Maryland is in that prime location in order to access all of these. Most of the airports are accessible via the metro system, so literally students can leave campus, walk across the street, hop on the subway, and they'll be able to get to 2 of the major airports as of right now. The third one being BWI is accessible via car or Amtrak as well for our students. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about DC. As I mentioned, we do have some major cities like Baltimore and our state capital of Annapolis in our backyard, but DC is going to be the one location that's very accessible to our students, and thus you'll probably be spending a lot of your time in the district. As I mentioned, it's a 10-mile ride. It's a 10-mile journey into the district. It's about a 15 to 20-minute metro ride, or driving roughly about the same, depending on what part of Washington, D.C. you're looking to go to. But students utilize Washington, D.C. for a variety of different reasons. Academically, of course, there's going to be opportunities for you to be in class and a professor to tell you, hey, your assignment today is I want you to go, look at this exhibit in the Smithsonian, or go to this production that's being held at the Kennedy Center, and then come back. You're going to write a paper on it, and then we'll discuss it in class. And so it really allows our students to get interactive and really get them involved with the community, not just at College Park. Internships. So all you that are looking to go to college or hopefully looking to do college in order to pursue a career later on. We don't want to see you here 6, 7, 8 years. We want you to get in here, do your 4 years, pursue a career after that, and maybe come back for a master's or a PhD later. Well, to get that, a lot of students will do an internship in order to open some of those doors for them. More importantly, a lot of times internships will actually teach you what you don't want to do. And I've had a number of students say they wanted to come in here, and for example, their whole life they wanted to do business, and that's what they wanted to do. They got here, they did an internship somewhere, something in marketing or advertising or something in finance, and they figured out that they really hated it. And doing this earlier allowed them to have the time to change their major and kind of restructure what they wanted their career, their 4 years here at Maryland to be, versus waiting till your senior year to do an internship, finding out you hate it, and now you're kind of stuck because it's too late for you to kind of switch your major. So that's another good reason why students will do internships. Lots of opportunities, again, for involvement in the district even on the fun level. So we do have a lot of different sports teams in the region, concerts, museums. I mean, there's just so much to do around and in Washington, D.C. specifically, and it's so accessible for our students. All right, so here at the University of Maryland, we have over 90 different majors you can choose from, and you can even create your own major if one of these majors doesn't stand out to you. All of them are actually housed in one of these schools or colleges. So as you can see here, School of Agriculture, our Robert H. Smith School of Business, our A. James Clark School of Engineering. Those are some of the more popular programs or colleges that we have here at Maryland. And again, each of these colleges are going to be comprised of different faculty, different staff members, support, different folks that are helping you with those internships. They're all housed in those different departments, and they're there to help you as well. So some of our majors here at the University of Maryland are a little bit more popular than others, and thus when students apply, they just don't have the space to hold every single student that applies to them. We call them limited enrollment programs, and literally, like the name says, we limit the amount of enrollment that goes into those programs. Some of the ones to highlight for incoming freshman students would be our School of Business, our engineering department, anything within the chemistry and biological sciences, as well as the engineering school. And so when students apply to Maryland, on the application, you can definitely put down that you're interested in one of these programs. And if you're admitted to the university, we will also follow up with reviewing you for those specific programs. And so here at Maryland, you don't apply to one specific program, you actually apply to the entire university as a whole. And so that's called major blind admission. And I'll get into that a little bit more in detail later on in the application process. But just so you all are aware, when you apply to Maryland, you could be admitted to the university as a whole, but you may or may not be admitted to your major of choice if it's one of those I mentioned earlier, because again, those departments have to review those students and see who's the kind of pre-selected best students that apply from the pool into those programs. But don't worry, if you don't get into those programs as an incoming freshman, what happens is you'll be put into what's called letters and sciences, and that's our hold area. It's not necessarily a major, but it's more so a department made up of different faculty members and advisors that can assist you with how you want to pursue admission into one of those programs. So for example, if you wanted to get into engineering, but you didn't, as an incoming freshman, the letters and science advisor assigned to you will actually work with you and discuss what are the prerequisites you need for engineering, what are the classes, what's the GPA you need, and then that's once you select or once you complete those specific requirements, then you can actually be admitted into that program. That is the case with all of these except for business, who will just allow students to be re-reviewed when they're more competitive at a later time. So more information can be found on our LEP website, but again, we can dive into that a little bit more later on in the presentation. All right, so this is probably one of my more favorite slides to talk to students about is our special experiences. And that's because in the college environment, everybody thinks, it's just going to class, studying, and taking exams. And that's not necessarily the case. There's so much that happens as a person, growth and academically outside the classroom that really enhances what happens in the classroom. That can come from research experiences, internship opportunities, studying abroad. I mean, some of these things are definitely points that students want to get involved in when they're at a university, and they can all be done here at Maryland from the moment you step on campus. So as a freshman, if you're sitting in a class and you're really excited about what your professor is actually researching, you can approach that professor and ask them, hey, I really like what you're doing right here. I want to get involved in that as well. How can I do that? And they can actually bring you onto their research teams or connect you with other colleagues of theirs that are doing research in areas that you're interested in. We already talked about internships and how important those are, but again, at Maryland, you're going to have somebody in the Career Center helping you find these internships, but also within your own department, you'll have staff available to assist you. And I don't know how many students I talk to that say they pretty much get a weekly or at least twice a month email blast from their department, letting them know, hey, here's some internships for next semester. If you're interested, reach out to such and such person, and it really is easy for them to get involved with that. Our study abroad is one of our more popular programs to do as well. Any major here at Maryland can study abroad as I mentioned, this can start freshman year all the way through senior year. And so if you're interested, in studying business in Singapore or Hong Kong, you can do that. We have options to do service learning as well, where you actually can go and work on like community service projects in another country too, Honduras, or if you're interested in going to Europe or anywhere else like that, Australia. I mean, these are some of the places that are so popular for our students. And because we're part of the Big Ten, we have pretty much any country in the world that you want to go to and that's safe, you're able to do so, of course. This does allow you, it does take a little bit of planning for some students to make sure that it falls within their schedule and just to identify when the prime time is for them to go. But you can also work out the credit conversions and everything as well. So you know exactly when you go abroad, what credits are coming back to campus and how that will apply to your transcript here at Maryland. Some of these classes are actually sponsored by your own department. And so it's like you're taking that engineering class here, but you're actually in Copenhagen or Rome or somewhere else taking that course with a professor from UMD. And our living and learning programs, that's actually one of the more popular things as well about the University of Maryland, and something that's we're a little bit more well known for is having that idea that you can live with and go to class with students that have similar backgrounds or similar interests. And so, for example, one of the more popular programs is our Honors College. Something you don't apply to, but just as long as you apply by November 1, you'll be considered for these living and learning programs. And so they will select the most competitive students for the Honors College. So if you're a student that's getting really good grades right now, strong SAT scores, ACT scores any other year, this year we're not using SAT and ACT specifically for admission purposes, but in other years we will, and we have. And so if you're looking at applying to Maryland, those students that have those stellar AP classes, honors classes, IB curriculums, and you're having really strong grades in those, as well as your resume and such, that's how these living and learning programs will select the students that they want for their programs. Again, you typically will live with students in the same program in a specific dorm or a specific hall of a dorm, and kind of help build that community for you as well, especially the first 2 years that you're here on campus. Okay, so we're going to dive now into the application process a little bit more. So specifically here at Maryland, we actually utilize the Common App and the Coalition. So this is the first year that we're utilizing Common App. For those of you that may have had friends or older siblings that went through and applied to Maryland, you'll remember that last year before that, we were always just on the Coalition, but this will allow us, being on Common App, to access more students as well. And so whichever way you want to use, whichever application you want to use, you're more than welcome to do so. Some students just know, hey, I'm doing every school on Common App. It's just easier if I add Maryland to that. Great. We don't have a preference, one application or the other. They both come to our office the same way. So definitely it's up to you to decide which way or which application you want to utilize. If you visit our website as well, you'll see the Apply Now link too, so you can click that to get started. We also have a variety of different checklists for our students. I always encourage students to print this off or to write them down, so that way you can kind of cross off the different requirements for the school and make sure that you've submitted the documents at the appropriate time. Also, I would suggest making an email address that's specifically just for your college application, so you don't get lost, so they don't get lost in the process. And also maybe creating a spreadsheet that shows the different requirements for all the different schools and the different deadlines, so that way you're a little bit more organized. That's something that I didn't do as a high school senior, and I wish I would have, because it would have helped me be a little bit more organized and just make sure that I'm not applying to UMD, for example, with requirements for UNC or something of that sort. And so just making sure that you're more organized and you're right on track, so that way you'll maximize the amount of time you have up until the application deadline, and then you'll know whether or not you're missing any of those required documents. All right, and as I mentioned earlier, we do have a checklist available online. Here are some of the things you will need in order to apply to the University of Maryland: the application and fee, of course, your letters of recommendation, and those can come from one teacher and one counselor. Outside of that, students will typically submit another letter, either from a boss if they're working somewhere, maybe a coach or some kind of mentor, somebody from church, anybody like that that can speak to your character. I would highly encourage you to send that letter of recommendation. Basically anybody can send one, as long as it's not your parent or an uncle or something like that, because we have seen those where maybe somebody works for a family member, and at the end of the day, your mom or dad's going to talk so highly of you, but we want to get somebody else's perspective. You will need to submit your official transcripts. As stated earlier, we need, if you took any of those AP honors, anything like that, that's fine. But if you took any dual enrollment credits at another institution, we're going to need the transcripts from that college as well. So just make sure you're sending school transcripts from every single school you've been to. If you've been to multiple high schools, same thing. Even if the grades appear on the second high school's transcript, we still need it from the original school, just to make sure that we assess everything on an individual basis. Official standardized test scores, as I mentioned, we are going test optional this year. And so if you send your SAT or ACT score, that's fine, but you also do not have to. So with this, I will say, and I really want to emphasize here, that students really need to understand and know ahead of time whether or not they want to submit their scores to Maryland or not. Because if you select that you do not want your scores reviewed, even if you send them later, we can't look at them. and vice versa. If you say, hey, I'm going to send them and you never do, we're going to be looking for a document that never arrives and your application will be incomplete. So we want to make sure that you know ahead of time, hey, do I want the score looked at for Maryland or not? As I mentioned, it's test optional, so we are not utilizing it in our review process as we did in the past. It will not make a difference whether or not you send it compared to somebody else who does it. It's just another piece of information that we have to work with. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but we look at 26 different factors in a holistic review process. And so this would just be another piece of information. We do accept Duolingo now as an English test for anybody whose English is their second language. You will have to submit either a TOEFL exam score, IELTS, or Duolingo this time as well. Again, this is only if English is your second language, or if you highlight or select that on the application, it'll automatically start looking for this document. So just make sure you read the application and don't select that if it doesn't apply to you. You will need your resume or your activities list. A lot of students, we don't have a preference either one. I always get questions from students asking, do we have a preference? We really don't. So if you want to just list out your activities, that's great. But some students want to go a little bit more in depth and they'll upload a resume in that case. You will have to complete an essay, and so there's different essay prompt questions depending on which application you choose. And so just make sure you are remembering which application you are using, because if you are starting with Coalition but you submit an essay from Common App, you want to make sure that you tailor it to that specific question that they asked you. So just remember that. And then this is new this year, is our TERPS application portal. And so once you submit your application to Maryland, you'll actually get access. You'll get an email from us within about 3 days that says, hey, here's your information for your TERP application portal. That's the portal you're going to log into to actually keep track of everything that's happening with your application. I said earlier about the standardized test scores. This is actually where you're going to go ahead and select whether you want your scores reviewed by Maryland or not. And so just please, please, please remember, you're going to submit your application to Maryland. Once you get the email saying, hey, this is your TERPS application portal, that's where you'll actually you'll actually log in and you'll be able to select whether or not you want Maryland to use your SAT scores or not. So again, please remember, TERP application portal comes after the application itself, and that's where you'll select whether or not you want your scores used. Again, here are the 26 factors that we look at. This is published on our website, so it's public information. You don't have to screenshot or take pictures or anything like that. If you Google UMD 26 factors, it will come up for you. So don't worry about having to jot them all down. But these are just an idea of like the different things we look at when we look at students' applications, not just the academic piece, but also, who are you as a student? What involvement have you had? That's very important to us as well, because you can be, a rocket scientist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good fit for Maryland. And we want to see that students are involved in different areas. They're able to juggle different things, and they're leaders. At the end of the day, we always like to say that our students are fearless and they push forward. And so we want to see that in our applicants as well. All right, so here are the deadlines. I really only want you to focus on the early action deadline. So November 1st is our early action deadline. It's non-binding, so you do not have to commit to Maryland if you apply early, but you get all the perks of applying early. The number one thing is that you get best consideration for the university. Just so you have an idea, we had about 33,000 applications last year, and our freshman class is typically around 4,000 students or so. And so if you want to be in that group of students that has the most opportunity to get accepted in Maryland, this is the pool you want to be a part of. You also are automatically reviewed for those merit scholarships. And so I don't know about you, but the sound of free money to pay for college sounds great. And so if you're a student that, you have some strong grades, you're doing what you have to do in the classroom, this is where you want to apply. This is when you want to apply in order to be reviewed for those merit scholarships. Also, as I mentioned, the special programs I told you about earlier, like the Honors College, our College Park Scholars programs, all these programs are going to be reviewing students based on this deadline specifically. So if you're interested in being selected for these special programs, you definitely want to apply early. Again, there is a regular deadline in January, but it's not going to be a deadline that I would encourage you to apply for, because I will be very blunt and honest. Most of our students that apply after November 1 will not be admitted to Maryland due to space to the university. Okay, and so with that, that concludes my presentation specifically, but I did want to leave a good amount of time for questions and answers, because I always seem to get them to come up, and I never have enough time, I feel like, for students to answer all the questions they want to ask. And so at this time, if you have any questions, please, please, please feel free to ask away. And myself and or my colleagues will be helping to answer those questions for you as well. All right. Okay, well, while we wait for some questions to come in, I do want to like kind of touch on a couple other pieces of the application itself. And so, oh, what GPA score do you recommend you have before applying? Good question. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this live. So Ariana asks, what GPA do you recommend we have before applying? This is a great question, and we get this question a lot. I would say for us, we don't have any cutoffs, and so we really want to see the whole applicant as the application as a whole. And so what I would say, typically students that apply to Maryland and get into Maryland have A's and B's with, a couple C's, little to no C's is what I say. And then they have AP, honors, IB curriculum. So we don't have a specific GPA, as I mentioned. The averages really can range from a variety of different things, just because every college, every state has a different system they utilize. So whether it's a 5-point scale, a 3-point scale, or whatnot. So if you're sitting more in that A's and B's with AP and honors type of classes, that's typically what we want to see. Another example, we have a lot of times where I'll see a student that has a really strong GPA, for example, but they didn't really have a lot of involvement, right? Or their GPA is strong, but they have no honors in AP. And so we look at that weighted score. So just make sure that whatever GPA, it really varies depending on where you're at. So I would say if you have A's and B's and honors and AP classes, that's typically what we're looking for. I also want to see involvement, and as I mentioned earlier, the resume is very helpful with this, but we want to see longevity. So if you've been involved in a couple clubs for a long period of time, that speaks a lot more to us than a student who put down 5 or 6 clubs junior year just to kind of get in on the application. So just remember that as well. Let's see. All right, so Elise says, are guaranteed admission pathways binding? So here at Maryland, we don't have any guaranteed admission pathways to the university. So for us, the early action deadline is a non-binding deadline. And then other schools, if they have early decision, that's the binding one. But for us here at Maryland, we don't have a binding process. And again, we don't also have a guaranteed admission pathway either. So if you apply to Maryland by November 1, you're just in that overall better applicant pool in order to be given best consideration to the university. So some other things I want to just highlight, because some students have never been to this area before, just so you're aware, we are in more of a suburban campus. So the city and town of College Park is pretty much hand in hand with the University of Maryland. And so although we are in a very big metro area with, 3 major cities in our backyards, students love the feel because we're kind of in that more suburban, kind of like a green bubble. And so the university really provides them that opportunity to kind of go into the city, get that experience, do whatever it is they're doing there, but then come home to College Park as well. And so for all you big sports fans, there's a ton of different activities to do here on campus in athletics, whether you're a spectator or you want to play a sport. Intramurals, we also have club teams, and of course the division sports. Additionally, we have over 800 clubs you can join here at the University of Maryland. We pride ourselves in being one of the most diverse campuses in the country. And so with that comes a variety of different clubs and organizations that students can join. So literally, there's been times where I'm on campus and, a student organization has brought, cultural, like a cultural food event, or, brought a camel to campus, or, has dancers out on the lawn. So that way people can kind of engage with them and kind of get a little bit more experience in their culture, which I think is amazing. So there's that piece of it. We also have academic clubs, and we also have different pre-professional organizations as well. And so if you're interested in getting involved in like engineering or business or anything like that, you can also participate in some of these academic and professional clubs to kind of add to your resume, but also to network more with other colleagues or other students who eventually will be additional colleagues. I also wanted to mention that in each department, you want to get close with those faculty members as well, because they're going to be the ones that can connect you, especially later on if you're looking to attend graduate school or something. They can write you those letters of recommendation. They can connect you with their faculty colleagues in other schools that you want to apply to, and really kind of be there to support you as well. So make sure whatever school you decide to go to, you're connecting with those colleagues as well. Also here at Maryland, we're very, very big on just kind of making sure that students have that entrepreneurial and innovative mindset. And so when you're going through your classes, I mean, every single environment you're going to be in, they're going to really push you to say, okay, how can you think of this a little bit more outside the box? And so I really like that here about the university, because you can literally be in a class talking with somebody and a professor. You can be in a class with a professor talking to somebody from a whole different walk of life from you, that's going to help you kind of think about things in a different way, and say, oh, wow, I didn't even think I didn't know about that perspective, because I've never engaged with a student or somebody from this country or this state or this area. And so it's a really good place to kind of network and meet so many different types of people, which I've heard from a lot of students really reflects the real world for them. All right. Grayson asks, what is UMD most known for in terms of academics, programs, opportunities outside of the college? And so the University of Maryland has, I mean, we kind of have our hands in a lot of different things. Because we're the largest public research school in the DC region, we get a lot of different connections with faculty that are doing research already on a variety of different things. And so, for example, one of our founders, one of the founders of Google is actually an alumni of the University of Maryland, who's the name for our computer science program is actually named after. And then also, if you're interested in, like, if you ever wore anything like Under Armour, things like that sort, Kevin Plank is another notable alumni that we have. So literally everything here on campus, as far as our like official teams or University of Maryland swag goes, is all Under Armour, which is pretty cool. He also funds a lot of opportunities for students inside of the business school as well. So if you're a student interested in business, that's going to be a great place for you to kind of reach out and see the different resources available to you. Everything pretty much here in the area is built by the Clark Construction Company, which is the name of our James A. Clark School of Engineering. And so there's that piece. NASA's down the road as well. And so our students have the opportunity, if you're interested in engineering and space, to get connections there, because we actually have some space labs available to our students that literally only like NASA scientists can use. So that's pretty cool as well. But like I said, we have our hands in a little bit of everything. We have the University of Maryland Medical Center as well in Baltimore. And so a lot of our students that want to pursue medicine are also able to kind of pursue that eventually, if you're looking at the pre-med world. Lastly, and again, going back to the business and journalism aspect specifically, I would say that a lot of our students love the fact that we have DC in our backyard, so they can go down there, intern at these different places. If you're a journalism student, we have so many different opportunities for you to get involved literally in Washington, D.C., because all the major news outlets are there. The arts, I mean, you name it, we pretty much have it. Let's see, anybody else have questions or been to Maryland or have questions about this area? Let's see. All right, so I guess I'll talk also a little bit more in depth about some of the majors and programs. As I was mentioning just now with the question that I was answering, lots of the programs are a little bit more popular than other programs, and there's going to be opportunities for you to really get involved on campus as well as off campus in all of them. If you're interested in some of the other programs that we have that are more popular, our criminal justice program and government politics are well known. Also, if you're interested in public policy, that's another well-known program of ours. And these sometimes can go hand in hand. Some students will double major across two different programs. Some students will stick to one major in one school. Either way is fine. So if you have an interest in two different areas, we are more than happy to help you in double majoring those together. So that way you'll leave the university with two different degrees, or you can major and minor in one. And that way you have kind of like a full experience in one, but kind of like a little bit of some expertise in another area that you can mesh together well too. So there's that option. Also, going back to the study abroad situation, so for students that want to study abroad, as I mentioned earlier, any time while you're here at Maryland, you can go and have a conversation with the study abroad office in order to plan that out. But literally, whether you want to do it for your specific major class or just as an elective, those are options for you as well. And then another cool thing about Maryland is we allow our students to kind of get academic credit or sub-academic class for their internship. And so if you're let's say you're a senior, you're looking to try to finish up these requirements so you can graduate, but you also want to do an internship opportunity in DC, you can actually work with your department specifically. So that way they can allow you to sub that class for that internship because you're getting that real world experience. And that's going to be a lot more valuable. Awesome. So Grayson also asked, what's the campus and school environment like? So we're a pretty fun, I would say, institution to be at, just because, like I said, we're in the middle of everything. But students have their way to come back to College Park without having to feel like they're in the middle of a city all the time. Because of our athletics and everything as well, and because we're the biggest school here, again, we attract so many different concerts or different events to come to College Park's campus. If anybody has time later on, if you go on YouTube and just Google like UMD's basketball or UMD football, you'll see some different videos, some different, I would say like they're kind of some hype videos of the different games that we've had, where students kind of get that experience, that feeling of like, that, I guess, that rah-rah feeling of a big school. It gives you that good sense of community too, because everybody here at Maryland or in the College Park area has some kind of tie to the university. And so you really feel like, when I'm here and walking around campus, I don't really see students that are, have other schools' information on them. For example, I went to school at UNC Charlotte down in North Carolina, and so I would see students wearing every other school's stuff, NC State or Carolina or whatever. And so here at Maryland, though, you don't see that. You see everybody here representing UMD, whether it's our flag, whether it's the M, whether it's, the turtle shell. We also have I would say a really cool and unique flag, and it's literally on everything. So whether it's socks, bow ties, shirts, you name it, it's pretty much repped all the time. So it really gives you that cool sense of like community as well. So at Maryland, a lot of our students are very much, looking to see, okay, how can I better whatever it is I'm trying to study, what area that I'm interested in, how can I make that a better situation, a better thing in a sense. But also when they're on campus, they feel supported by their faculty, they feel supported by their groups of friends, they have opportunities to really get involved in so many different things that they never would have in the past. Lastly, I will just say, like, the school food, I think the food at Maryland is great. There's a bunch of different options for students, and it's all you can eat. You literally scan your hand into the dining hall. It registers who you are based on that. You walk in and you can sit there, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack time. You want to go in there for an apple on your way to class, or you want to stay for a whole meal and study, you could do that. And then we also have like fast, quick options like in our student union, such as like McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Panda Express. And those are a little bit more popular for students when you're in the union, just because that's the life of campus. There's a movie theater in there, a bowling alley. There's so many things for students to do in that specific space. But again, it's definitely going to be a place where it's going to challenge you academically, but also it's going to allow you to grow as a person, because you're going to be influenced by so many different things and different ways of thinking and different people you're going to meet. And that's what I've heard from so many different students, is that they love that environment about Maryland. And another piece I just want to mention, because a lot of students always ask too, is so we're actually also a very green campus, and so we're very conscious about like our carbon footprint. And so you'll see a lot of different areas where the university has purposely tried to kind of reduce our emissions and such, and to make sure that we're green. So for example, we have a lot of our buildings have green roofs. We have options to recycle. We have things set up to recycle rainwater and get it processed to use in the different areas of the university. In our dining halls, we actually grow everything locally, and some of the chefs actually have their own local herb gardens on campus, and so they literally go there, pick the food that they're going to work with, and use it in the food that you're going to be eating. And so that's another way. We also are ranked one of the greenest campuses in the country. So when you're ever on campus, or if you do a virtual tour, you'll see it's just very tons of sprawling green space with big oak trees and everything. And it's just like what I think a university looks like in like a movie or TV from when I was younger. That's what, to me, Maryland looks like and reminds me of all the time. And yeah, we definitely have a bowling alley. It's very cool. We also have a movie theater that always shows movies ahead of time, that before they release in theaters, for our students. Good question. So it's just different. They're similar in size now because UNC Charlotte just hit over 30,000 people. It's also similar in the sense of it's close to, it's in Charlotte, but it's outside the urban or outside like the downtown area. It's different though because I think Maryland as a whole has a broader scope in terms of like UNC Charlotte's a little bit newer. Maryland's an older school. It has a lot more alumni base. It has a lot more reach. I think there's a lot more notoriety with some of the things that University of Maryland has done. And also specifically, it's our location. A lot of students will flock to Maryland specifically or a school in the DC region because of the different opportunities just being next to Washington, DC allows them to have, and the job outlook and allows them, like the job outlook here is so strong that students literally have 2 or 3 different job offers by the time they graduate. If of course you're doing what you need to do as a student to find those things, right? And so it just depends, they're just they're similar in some ways, but 2 totally different experiences, I would say. I would also suggest for those of you that are, for example, that can't come somewhere like Maryland right now, but are closer to another school similar to Maryland, like Chapel Hill, for example, or UNC Charlotte, or anything like the NC State. Although NC State's a little bit more urban because it's kind of closer to downtown Raleigh, I would suggest trying to walk around those campuses and get a feel for what that looks like, especially as things start to open up with COVID and everything, if it's safe for you to do so, because those schools are going to be very similar to what the experience at Maryland may be for you, because again, you'll have a large public research institution, lots of clubs and organizations, very spread out, open, big campus, and it's going to be in that more suburban setting. But again, the piece that really sets us apart from a lot of our other schools in the region is really our location. And so even amongst our Big Ten partners, we're the only like big, large research school that's housed right next to a major city. A lot of these schools are also in kind of rural areas. And so if you want to do an internship in DC, like I did when I was at UNC Charlotte, for example, I had to come to Maryland. I mean, I came to DC one time my junior year of college just to do an internship for a couple weeks in the summer. But our students are able to go in and out of DC on a day-to-day basis. So you can literally take morning classes and do an afternoon internship or vice versa. And that way you're getting that real world experience that you can utilize to kind of determine whether or not you want to pursue this career field later on. Or maybe it's like, hey, I didn't even know that, this area of my field existed until I talked to somebody in this internship. And so that's just another big, I guess a big up for Maryland specifically because of our location. We have about 2 or 3 more minutes here. So any other last minute questions from the group here? And if not, again, I have my contact information there. You're more than welcome to reach out to me via email, and we can schedule a conversation via Zoom or via phone. That is our phone number as well. But as mentioned, during COVID, a lot of us aren't necessarily in the office, so it'd be easier for you to reach to me via email. And then on our admissions website, very important to scroll through there because you're going to have the opportunity to sign up for different tours and information sessions that we have. Also, our calendar on the website will show what other departments when other departments are having their information sessions. And so if you're interested in like engineering or business, they have their own information sessions you can join and register for. I think my favorite thing about UMD, honestly, is the diversity. I love the fact that I come into a campus that our students want to kind of better the world. I would say, I love the fact that I can see so many different people from different experiences, different walks of life, but they all have the same mindset, right? They all have a passion for UMD and a love for this campus. And as somebody who didn't go to UMD but works at UMD for a while now, I would say that like just embracing, right? Just saying, hey, now you're part of this community, and having that feeling is really, really cool. We also have very quirky like traditions and such. And so if anybody ever sees her name is Testudo, but it's our statue of our mascot in front of our main library. During like finals and such, students will actually like give offerings to Testudo, and with the thought being that the better you're offering, the better exam scores you're going to get. And I thought that was so cool and unique and quirky about UMD. We have other things too, like in different games and different rallies that we have, but like to me that was one thing when I got here that really stood out, because I walked by and was like, why is there a bunch of Starbucks cups and a flat screen TV what is it doing next to this the statue? And then students had to like tell me, oh, it's because such and such. And so it was kind of cool just to see every year what are the next offerings that semester that students are going to have. And so with that, I think that's about all the time we have. I just want, like I said, my name is Adrian Rodriguez. I'm your admissions rep. So if you have any questions throughout the application process, please reach out to me. Also, make sure that you're giving yourself around like a good 2 weeks before the deadline, just to double check that you have all your materials in. All right. Let's see. And with that, thank you again. And I hope everybody has a good rest of your day. And feel free, again, like I said, to send me an email or contact me with any questions.
Thank you, presenters, for sharing with us your information tonight. Thank you, students, for joining us as well. As you exit the webinar, you will be prompted to complete a short survey. We do welcome your feedback on how we can improve these programs for you. Continue to check out the other sessions that we have available on our website at www.cacrao.org. And recordings will be available of this session and remaining sessions within the week on that same website. Have a great night. Thank you.